Good evening. This is the Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act was provided by written notice on January 8th, 2018 to the Courier News, the Echo Sentinel, the Star Ledger, Tappan DeWarn, clerks of the Borough of Watchung and the townships of Greenbrook, Long Hill, and Warren. Mr. Stiles, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Mizio? Mr. Fahey?
Here.
Mr. Hayek? Mr. Hunsinger? Mr. Martins?
Here.
Mr. Morrison?
Here.
Mrs. Ober?
Here.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Here.
And Mr. Fallon.
Yes. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would now like to entertain a motion in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Be it hereby resolved that the board move into executive session to discuss confidential personnel matters and negotiations, after which action will be taken. So it is expected that the matters discussed in executive session, you're starting to get like me, Bruce, will be made public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're back in public session. Good evening. Board correspondence. We did have a letter from a member of the PTO concerning the PTO. Ms. Jewett, Superintendent's comments.
So our students here this evening have most of the fun news items to report. But I did just want to share, we recently learned yesterday that we were named to the 9th annual College Board AP District Honor Roll. This is the third time that Watchung Hills has been named to this honor roll. This is actually our second consecutive year. And the one of the nice things about this recognition is there are two keys to getting on the honor roll. You have to increase both access to advanced placement courses and achievement on AP exams, and they measure that over 3 years. So we have done that. We've been placed on the honor roll 3 times, and the most recent 2 times were last year and this year. So that's a tremendous accomplishment for our students and our staff, because it really is a collaborative effort that starts way before the students sign up for an AP course, and it crosses disciplines and crosses grade levels. So it's a nice honor for the district and for the students. We also have our upcoming holiday concerts this Thursday and next Thursday. So this Thursday is our instrumental concert, and next Thursday is our choral concert. I highly recommend you attend if you can. They always put on a wonderful show. And if anyone does still need tickets, please just let me know. But I'm looking forward to both of those. And that is all I have. And everyone have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in 2019.
Tickets?
Yes. Yes, it was. It
And
is
you
new
and
for
you
this
better get them.
Yes.
Okay,
it's-
I need a choral ones.
I can absolutely. So if the reason we're doing tickets this year is they are so popular that we tend to exceed our capacity in the Performing Arts Center. So we are going to, and every student was allotted a certain number of tickets. They're not reserved, they're reserved seats, but they're not assigned seats. And then we released additional ones to the public. And then if for the overflow, it's going to be live streamed in the South Auditorium and I believe one other spot. So
Just email you?
yes, just email me and I will get them. I will take care of them for you.
Does that mean we need a bigger auditorium?
I got a second one.
How many do you need for choir? You can tell me. If anyone wants to just tell me now
I
before
need
you
one
forget.
for choral.
I need 3.
Okay, Got it.
Pain to me.
got it. They're electronic, so I can just email them to you.
Okay, last meeting of the year. I first want to wish everybody happy holidays and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I want to thank all of you for your support this year. Learning my way through trying to be president for the board. I appreciate the support that everyone on the board and the administration has given me. And I look forward to next year for all of us having a successful time. We're going to still trying to get the retreat scheduled. I put in a call to Gwen today, and but she didn't get back to me. It's my understanding that all of our evaluations, the self-evaluations are done. So as soon as she gives us dates, I'll circulate them in an email, and we'll try and set up a date hopefully in early January. Mr. Stiles, your comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one comment. You have a walk in D11 under the D section. It's more of a process item, something I thought I had done, but I did not. The architects asked for it. What it is it's just getting permission to submit an application to the DOE for the locker room project, and essentially asking the board for permission to solicit the bids. That's all. It's just more of a process, though.
Okay.
And that is it.
Now I would like to welcome Rebecca Patel, joining us for the first time as a student rep, and Taylor Parker back again. If you will fill us in on what's going on at the school, we'd appreciate it.
The Joy Prescott Humanitarian Award for Student Leadership and Dedication from Kean University is presented annually to a student leader committed to human rights and the pursuit of social justice. On November 28th in room 105, Senator Kaine invited to this in class assembly in which 4 seniors presented about tolerance and diversity to a few freshman world history classes. This year's award was presented to upstander Stella DiMizio. As president of the Diversity Club, Stella has worked diligently to create a culture of upstanders at Watchung Hills. Her diversity legacy includes the following achievements: creating, directing, and producing a documentary video titled We Are Watchung Hills, which explores identity, gender, race, and ethnicity at our high school; playing a vital role in the anti-bullying whiteout event; advocating for a more informed understanding of the Watchung Hills Warrior mascot to reflect the culture of the Lenni Lenape; constructing a lesson on race and privilege for world history classes. Jagdeep Beta and Jay Fu, members of the math team, received a perfect score in the October New Jersey Math League contest. The math team had a very successful month in November. We had 3 perfect scores in the New Jersey Math League competition: Mayor Sharma, Kevin Fu, and Daniel Zhang. They also participated in Math Madness last year. They have beat their opponents all 4 weeks, with 2 more weeks left in the tournament. These are extremely challenging problems, and we have had 1 student receive a perfect score on November 6th, Myra Sharma.
Nina Iyer and Jordan Ginsburg represented Watchung Hills very well in late November at the JSA Fall State Convention, both winning Best Speaker awards elected by their peers for their performance in their respective debates. The marching band held their annual end-of-season banquet on November 26th, celebrating a season of many achievements as follows. October 6th, first place Group 4 in all captions. October 13th, first place Music, second place Group 4. October 20th, first place Group 4, first place Music and Percussion. October 28th, third place Group 5. Congratulations to our marching warriors. Our fall play, The Crucible, was presented by Watchung Hills Script and Cue on November 16th and 17th at 7 p.m. and during a Saturday matinee performance on November 17th at 2 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. The performances were well received and attended by parents, faculty, students, and community members. Congratulations to our talented performers and advisors and students who helped behind the scenes on another stellar production. The winter season contest will officially began on December 14th, with the exception of bowling, ice hockey, and swimming, which began earlier in the season. We have the following special events scheduled for the month of December that we hope you will all come out to enjoy and support our teams. On December 13th, the Swim Senior Night at Morris Union Jointure Commission in Warren. Boys basketball will be hosting the following events this month. On December 18th, Future Warriors Night, Scott Anderson Night. On December 20th, Alumni Night. And on December 21st, Juan Carlos Cruz Night.
Thank you both. Just in terms of student achievement, we're also going to be hearing shortly in the Education Committee report about Launch X, which is something that some of our students have been leading. During our meeting, we were told that certain groups have applied for a mentorship through Launch X. By the time of our education meeting, one of our student groups had gotten a membership assigned to them by LaunchX, and the superintendent's just informed me that 2 more of our groups have also been assigned mentors, so we're really doing quite well with that. But, so now we'll go to committee reports, and Rita, you have the education report.
Yes, so we discussed the orchestra honors level course that has been at issue or up for consideration. Last meeting, we talked about whether or not just making orchestra would be as honors and just have it as an honors course, whether that would be feasible, but that seemed exclusionary to those students who may not be able to participate at that level because it requires an audition process. We discussed creating 2 sections, one unleveled and one in honors levels, but that's not feasible because we don't have enough students presently. So then there was an idea of if you combine the course and level it within the course. The administration believes that that's not a recommended option. It causes some concern in terms of trying to teach different levels in the class, and then because it's hard to do that, then the students at honors level are just doing stuff outside of the class, which isn't really probably the main purpose of having an honors levels orchestra class. And then there is an option of having them.
We're not ready to talk about that one yet.
Okay, there's a philosophy going to commit to all unleveled elective courses is basically, most of our elective courses are unleveled, so do we stay unleveled to stay within that philosophy was part of the discussion as well. And that we're continuing to look at other options to offer advanced level performance or playing opportunities to the orchestra students, and we'll continue that discussion in January.
And we've asked the administration to look at some of those alternatives and come back to the education committee concerning them.
So then we had a student, Adnan contractor, come in and give a presentation on LaunchX. So LaunchX is an entrepreneur program for high school students. It originally began in MIT, and basically the students have to, the way he explained it, the students have to put in a significant amount of time. It's all volunteer to do it. It's open to everybody. But I think he was saying they do 4 to 6 hours a week and 2 to 4 hours on the weekends of basically developing an entrepreneurial product, from marketing and branding to developing it and business plans, so the whole thing from start to finish. Right now there's 20 highly dedicated students with 4 teams. So the teams have then are broken down into the different sections like I was talking about. They develop an idea and the business plan, and then they can be matched with a mentor. So they have to submit their business plan to be matched with a mentor, and that's a selection process. And right from now, I think it's all 4 of our teams have been successfully matched with mentors. And then they move on to, then they can go to MIT campus and basically present their product, their entrepreneur designs, and possibly, he talked about people, what's the word I'm looking for? Funding.
Getting seed funding.
Getting seed funding for potentially developing the actual product. So some of the things that they talked about was I think a lot of it seemed to be matching educational needs with maybe underprivileged communities. That was one area. There was another area about recycling.
A group of students actually came to
composting.
interview Tim about some of the.
They did. They had a great idea. It was they wanted to use surplus equipment for all the schools to share. So if you had a short-term need for a piece of equipment, you could, they had it complicated beyond my thinking because they were using algorithms, but what they were trying to do was develop a database of quote-unquote surplus equipment, meaning, okay, I don't need it for this month, so I can lend it to Greenbrook or Long Hill or whoever. And each of the schools can maintain that database and inventory it. So they asked me a bunch of questions, legal questions, business administrator questions. But I told him, I think it's a great idea. I says, you know, you have to, you know, this would be great if you can get involved, you know, at a local level, maybe townships start low or a county, and then, you know, if they would embrace it, you can go, this would be good for the DOE, the New Jersey DOE. So I was really impressed. It was three young men, and they were asking a lot of questions, and it was kind of a really exciting product.
And at the Education Committee, one of the things that came through is this really is student-led education in terms of coming up with the ideas, and they're under extremely tight deadlines because all this has to get done basically from 1 year to the next, so that they start working over the summer, and then they're coming up with ideas. They have deadlines in September, they have deadlines in October, November, every month, a different step along the way to submitting this stuff to LaunchX. LaunchX also has a theme for each particular year, and they encourage the students to come up with entrepreneurial projects
Within
that are within or related to the theme. You know, one of the things that we talked about in the Education Committee is this doesn't fit real evenly within any of our sort of club structures or any of our structures. So, you know, we've asked for input on, you know, it sounds like something that, at least at the Education Committee, we're excited to support, and we want to find a way to support, but we also need to find a way to fit it into what we do here.
Are the mentors teachers or?
Thus far, the mentors are from outside, and they're supplied by LaunchX.
Oh, they're supplied by.
We, in terms of our LaunchX group here, it's been our Director of Curriculum and Instruction who has been working with them. The time demanded for this is far beyond the time that most of our teacher who have stipends are supervising clubs. And that's one of the places where this doesn't really fit in, and we've got to figure out what's going to be the best way to support this if that's what the board wants to do.
The three universities that partner to sponsor LaunchX are MIT, Harvard, and Northeastern, and I believe the mentors come from there. So that's who our students are working with.
So, and the student himself was talking about trying to create it so it continues on. So there are juniors and sophomores.
Yeah, they
that
have the whole succession
they're
plan.
trying to, succession plan to keep it going because he's a senior.
The presentation that he gave at Ed Committee is in the Ed Committee folder, if anyone wants to take a look at it.
And it's worthwhile looking at.
Yeah, it's really
Just
amazing.
take 10 minutes to look at the PowerPoint. I think you'll be impressed.
Then we also talked about two new clubs, the Kiva Microfinance and Black Student Union clubs. The Kiva Microfinance, I'll just give it, the way I understood, was essentially a club that would focus on raising money for business, like small businesses, micro businesses in underprivileged nation kind of ideas, like, so. And then Ms. Phelan talked about feedback on the new report card comments, which all the teachers had positive feedback on that.
Questions? Tim is going to give us the Operations Committee report.
Yes, Mr. President, we met on November 20th. We talked very briefly about the locker room project update. We had met with the architect to pick a color scheme, flooring, that kind of thing. And we pretty much are at the point where we're ready to go out to bid now. And we were trying to cut some of the costs to kind of bring it in line to where we want the budget to be, plus hopefully be able to add in the air conditioning. So that was a brief discussion that we had. We also talked about the referendum project. That's the quote-unquote referendum that doesn't have a cost to the community. It's, we're doing it with, like we did the turf field project, using our capital reserve for the local share and then the debt service aid for the state share. Our initial proposal from the architect came in, they started out with a $6 million budget, and that was primarily for this media center and the electrical project. And we felt that was a little bit too high. In fact, we know it was too high for the amount of capital reserve that we have. So we told them we have to scale that back to to about $4 million, because I know that's what we have in capital reserve right now. And the committee agreed, so I sent that back to them, and they're gonna give me another proposal to bring it where it needs to be. And we just talked about budget items briefly, the security project, and the signage out front, that we want to make improvements out front. The bulk of our meeting was we were reviewing a product that we had. I know Bob kind of led us that way a couple of years ago, but IDEX is a product that we bought. It's about $3,000 or $4,000 a year.
It's $2 a student.
$2 a student. So, yeah, so it's a pretty nice product. What it does is it allows us to compare to districts like ours, or any district you want in the state. It depends on how you want to compare. In other words, I've been using enrollment, economics, those kind of things, and the fact that we're regional against other regionals to compare, and I can compare by line item. Like the state data always had a very, I guess, macro look at it. You didn't get into the weeds like this can get, because they use audited data that they get from the state of New Jersey. So I could compare against anybody. So I was able to pick. I was able to pick regionals that compare to us, and I think I'm going to hone it down to about 3 or 4 where we match with our academics, and see where we are with that. But we were trying to look at key areas like administrative costs, classroom costs. As you guys all know, we always get we don't pay enough for athletics, or whatever. So we hear those kind of things. So I want to compare, where we are with these schools with athletics, co-curricular, again, obviously the administrative costs, but I kind of put it to the committee and said, what do you guys want me to compare it to? And the committee said, well, what do you want to compare it? How do you want to do it? The challenge was to the administration. So, we're gonna take a look at things that we're gonna hone in on about 3 or 4 of them, and bring it to the committee. And I'm gonna try to get it in compare with 3 specific regional schools where we match up with through enrollment, academics, and economics. So I think I want to do a deeper dive into how we're spending, and maybe how they're spending items, just to see, spending their budget, just to see if there's improvements we can make on how we report data. So that was a big, we spent a good 20 to 30 minutes on that, I think, yeah. So it was very productive. More to come, folks.
Okay,
Questions?
yes, please.
So so regarding the no-cost referendum, for lack of a better term, there's no cost to the public. We would fund our portion through capital reserve, and then this qualifies for the match from the state. Is that how?
It qualifies for a 40% debt service aid.
So, okay.
So we would be paying 60%.
And as we did 2 years ago, what we'd be,
66.
yeah.
Maybe a little more.
And as we did 2 years ago, what we'd be looking for was to put into that projects that our portion, we'd be able to fund out of our current budget or our existing reserves, so that it wouldn't be a tax increase or impact to the public of saying yes to the referendum. But in other words, projects that with our existing budget and the existing capital reserves, plus the almost 40% that we hope to get.
The up to.
Up to,
Yeah.
yes, that's the correct terminology. Up
Which
to.
never
achieved. Never achieved.
No.
The aspirational.
So, at the end of this process, where would you project our capital reserves to be?
Well, if things go the way they're going and the way I think they're going to go, I still believe we'll be around $1 million.
Right.
If things go the way they're going.
And does that take into account some of the additional, planned revenue from the state?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That would be part of that, yes.
So that way we can. I'm just concerned that we don't. empty out capital reserves, so.
Yeah, not totally, but it is gonna take a hit for sure. Yeah, and the project would be lined up for 2021. We would probably try to do the referendum sometime next year. Again, the exact date, I don't know. I'd have to talk to, I really would rather avoid the September type of referendum. If I could do it a little later, that would be better.
What percent approximately did we get last time in the state during the last referendum? If you know off the top of your head.
The debt service rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 34%.
30%. I'm just a little
Which is
confused by.
typical.
I'm just a little confused by debt service aid. Does that mean like the total cost of the project, or is that something like what's that terminology
It's,
mean?
you incur debt, so in other words.
So it helps. Okay.
Normally, you would do a bond.
Yeah.
Like say you did a $10 million bond,
Uh-huh.
you would get up to
Yeah.
40% of that number
Okay.
to pay your debt off. So it's like paying a mortgage. You would get a 40% or up to 40%.
So,
Of the total
and-
cost of the mortgage.
So
Correct.
in that example, John, if they say, yes, you're entitled to the 40%, and then the state does its budget, and it ends up being only 34%, then out of that $10 million, we would be paying back $6,400,000. We could stretch it out over 20 some odd years if we wanted to, but our idea here is we pay that all off within the first year,
Yeah.
so that we're also eliminating interest costs.
Yeah.
And doing it all basically currently, but being able to take advantage of getting the state's contribution.
Yeah, and the debt service aid is on principal and interest payments.
Principal. Okay. So principal. Okay.
So, and then, and you said that's for the media center and additional electrical work?
Yeah, the electrical work is not a large number.
The media center is,
The media center is, correct.
which is where we're sitting.
Yes.
Okay. And then regarding IDEX, I understand your approach on maybe looking at a handful of relevant, or districts that are similar to what we are in demographic, economic makeup. But it may also be valuable to also include a look at what our community perceives to be the our peer group, right? So we'll look at the numbers and we're gonna find some that really line up.
Right.
And it might be, and it could be Pascack Valley, and it could be, Delmar Regional,
Right.
Which no one in this community has any reference to what that would be. But I think that some in our community would be interested in, how do we stack up against, a Ridge or a Summit or a Westfield? Granted that there are caveats because those are K-12
Yeah.
versus the regional high school. But at least in certain categories, it may be
Yeah.
interesting to take a look
So,
at that.
yeah, some of them it helps. The K-12s are hard for us.
Absolutely.
Because, your athletic costs are gonna be a lot different. We're gonna look like we overspend against everyone. Likewise, special education, we're gonna look like we underspend. And in reality, like, you're dealing with special ed costs, K to 8 are much higher than what we deal with. And athletics clearly are gonna be higher for us. So that part's hard. But I agree with you because the community at large it'll be harder to look at us versus schools way up north or all over the place. You're right. It's a tougher.
I mean, I think as it relates to the board,
Yeah.
those are the ones that we need to look at for, about
Right.
how are we operationally, efficient, but to the degree that we can provide some appropriate context for the community, that might be helpful. And did you
Yeah.
demo this at the
Yeah, we
operations
did.
committee?
We
And-
did, yeah.
And Bob, as you and I both know, the great thing about IDEX is what you just asked for can be done in 5 minutes. And Tim can just go to the program and say, okay, these line items, and pull out any sort that he wants, so sort of different schools or whatever. If board members, whether it's operations committee or other board members, say, hey, can you compare it to XYZ school in Highland
Right.
Park or whatever, we can do that.
Yeah, I actually started out with comparisons with us against all Somerset County schools all regional schools and all state schools.
And that's
That was
what-
the initial comparison. And the lines were all over the place. And then when I kind of got closer to regionals, it was interesting because some of the things, the numbers they were different. And I was in just regionals. And I was like, I started looking into, that's what made me look into individual schools, because I'm like, why is that number so high? So then I caught one school where there was anomaly. So now my next act is to go call them and say, okay, why am I seeing this? So, and the BA will tell me, okay, this is what happened. Maybe we had a debt thing that kind of.
Where they classify administrators and supervisors separately in different lines.
Right.
Right, that's one thing I did find. One of the schools classified administrators differently than we did. And it was, again, kind of a funny way to do it.
Yes.
I don't know if our county would allow it, but I'm just saying they did it so differently that they were not a very good comparison for us, so.
So along those lines, it may be beneficial to actually have you and Liz do a presentation of that to the Ed Committee. Because just as there's a great wealth of information as it relates to the operational aspects of the school, there's tremendous information regarding educational aspects of the school as well. And as we're talking about, how do we use data to inform our work as a board and to inform what's happening at the school, it may be helpful for the other board members that haven't seen it, most of which are on the Ed Committee, to have an understanding of actually what's there and how that might be a useful tool to aid all of us.
I'll defer to the folks. I haven't looked at that.
Sounds like a
yet.
good agenda item for the committee.
Any
And we
more-
had talked about that, I think, before, because the most recent data hadn't been
Wasn't
uploaded
ready
into IDEC, so which it is now, so, sounds good.
Any more questions on the committee reports? We're now at the first opportunity for public comment, which is limited to agenda items for this meeting only. Second public comment period will be open to any topic. Michaela, don't feel like you have to stop.
She enjoys our company so much.
Anyone wish to address the board? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board discussion, as I said, I'm waiting for dates from Gwen, and I will circulate them hopefully this week. Hopefully tomorrow she'll get back to me. And in our folders this evening, we also got the supposed meeting schedule for 2019. We're not going to decide it tonight, obviously. We've got 3 members not here, but if you guys could take a look at it, and if there are dates, you could check against your calendars that cause issues, get back to the superintendent and let us know.
One thing to note is we've run into the past couple of years with having a meeting on Election Day. I know some people aren't so crazy about that. So we adjusted the meetings in November so that it's the 2nd and 4th week rather than the 1st and 3rd week, just to make note of that, so we won't have a meeting on Election Day. And then our April meeting, which is the public hearing on the budget, that's based on the calendar the state gives us of the range of dates where we can do the public hearing. The first, that we had originally scheduled the meeting for the 23rd on our original version of this, but the first date that we can actually do the public hearing is the 24th, so that meeting is a Wednesday. We tried to stay away from Mondays when we had to change anything, just because we know Greenbrook's meetings are on Mondays. Those are really the only anomalies, so just take a look between now and January, because we will,
Adopt this at the
the hope
reorg
is to
meeting.
put this on the reorg meeting.
But the reorg meeting's not on here, because that's set.
That's it, that is, I believe it's Thursday
That's-
the 3rd?
Yeah.
Thursday, January 3rd.
And that's because it was set.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
We're doing ours on the 7th, so I don't have to come to that 3rd, or do I get to?
No, I think you are, and it's whatever date ours was last year, because isn't it a year? You're appointed for a year, right? We ask that question every year. I believe it's you're appointed
And
for a
the
year.
answer changes every year.
So
Yes,
whatever
it does.
our meeting was last year,
I think it goes until the next year.
I'm pretty sure it's a year.
I think Bruce is right.
I-
I think it goes
I guess
to
the
next
question is,
reorg.
does it matter?
Well, yes, whatever you vote. But I think, because I remember asking them last year. We'll find it.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. President, is there any update on the shared services conversations?
Not at this time.
We have been, just with regard to articulation with the K districts, and looking at our special services data, which we had talked about, collecting, the special services directors are working together on that to look at some trends and see how we can coordinate in terms of programs across the district. So that is in process.
Okay. I'm going, any board discussion? Do we have addendum items to discuss? The walk-ins?
We had a couple walk-ins.
Walk-ins D11 and C15. I think we'll just go for the discussion on them when they're moved.
Yeah.
I think that's easier. So we're now at action items.
Mr. President, I'd like to move items A1 through A14.
Second.
Any discussion on resolutions A1 through A14? Mr. Stiles, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Fahey?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes, yes, but abstain on A1 and A2.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. President, I'd like to move items A15 through A18.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on resolutions A15 through A18? We have a roll call vote, Mr. Stiles?
Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Fahey?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Mr. President, I'd like to move items C1 through C15.
Second.
Any discussion on resolutions C1 through C15? Seeing none, do we have a roll call vote, Mr. Stiles?
Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Fahey?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Ms. Ober?
Where is C15?
That was the walk-in.
Oh, sorry,
Separate.
okay, yes.
Okay, Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Mr. President, I'd like to move items D1 through D8 and D11.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Shabilsky?
Just a question, Tim, on D11, to be sure that the date is right. It's listed as 2008. I want to be sure it's
no,
not
that is-
2018,
that is not
since it
correct.
seems like a dusty old
It's a long
facility
range plan
plan.
backwards.
If you had that kind of
Wait,
foresight.
hold on.
Wait a minute,
I
that
don't know
might
if
be
it's right or
Which,
not.
which,
D11, first resolve,
Walk-in.
008, walk-in.
That actually, you know what?
Yes.
It may
That-
be
Yes,
right.
it
That
is.
is correct.
I
Because
just
they
want to
keep
make sure.
telling us
That's when
can-
we did it last. That's correct.
And that's because we can't actually update it, correct? Because they keep
That's
telling us
correct.
not to.
The
Because the
state-
state, yeah.
Software doesn't let you to amend the plan. We're required to, but you can't access the state software to do it.
I'm
But instead
amazed that
we
we have
created that
such
survey
foresight
thing.
10 years ago.
That's how long we've been talking about fixing them. It's terrible.
Motion and second on that.
Any other discussion on D1 through D8 and D11?
Did we get a second?
Yeah, I think it
Yes.
was Bruce.
Bruce did, okay, thanks.
Do you have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Fahey?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Motion's
And I
carried.
think it was actually Dr. Shabilsky who seconded.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. President, I'd like to move items D9 and D10.
Second.
Any discussion of resolutions D9 and D10?
Yeah, actually, I would like to point out, because I wanted to do it in my
Yes.
BA discussion, but I do
D10.
want to point out, Resolution D10, we were having a tough time with a Somerset County ESC route that involved some students from Warren, and the parents had a tough time. There were some mistakes made. We shifted to a different contractor. We had ESC do another bid and got a second contractor, and then more mistakes were made. So we put the call into our colleagues over in Warren K-8, and Warren K-8, within a week, put together a route with their bus and their driver, and and it's cheaper, and the parents were thrilled. So just to point out, tremendous thanks to the Warren K-8 board, their BA, Pat Leonard, and the Superintendent Matt Mingle, but also Jan Dunlay, the transportation person. I cannot tell you how many calls that I got here, home, at the supermarket, about this particular route that we're really struggling with, and knock on wood, it's been great. And the parents were very happy. So big thank you to the Warren K-8 board.
That's good. That's a shared service right there.
Yeah, and shared service, but I couldn't be more happy. Them doing a nice job and stepping up.
Okay. There's no more discussion on D9 and D10. Do we have a roll call vote, Mr. Stiles?
Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Fahey?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
We're now at the second opportunity for public comment, which is on any subject on which someone would like to address the board. Please step forward. Seeing none, we will close the second opportunity for public comment. Anybody on the board have other business? Mr. Morrison?
Just two items real quickly. The first one is that the Somerset County School Boards Association is holding an Unsung Heroes Award ceremony, which will be hosted here at Watchung Hills. So I wanted to thank Liz and Tim for accommodating the request to host it. Basically, where Unsung Heroes students from all the high schools across the county will be brought together here for a celebration of their contributions to their individual schools. So wanted to do a public hat tip to the administration for supporting that.
Do you know the date of
What
that,
date?
Bob?
I believe that was April the
In the
6th.
spring, I don't remember.
It's early April, April the 6th, I believe.
Thank you.
So, and then the other thing is, and I don't know, Rita, did you go to delegate assembly?
I did.
Did you guys talk about consolidation discussion at the last board meeting?
I did.
Then I have no further comment.
Any other business?
We had talked previously about the climate survey, and then we postponed discussion of that based on members not here. Just want to make sure that that doesn't fall off the radar and
Thank you for
shows up again when we're all present, or mostly present.
We're going to shoot for all present this time.
Yes, please. Thanks.
Even if that means shifting it around, I hope. But I do think it would be preferable to do it tonight when everyone is here.
Agreed. Thank you.
Bruce is too upset by the last email he got to move for adjournment to the meeting. So will somebody else move?
Move to
forward?
adjourn.
Oh, I missed that, I'm sorry.
Second?
Second.
All in
Third.
favor?
All right.